how you doing? Welcome back. It's the Jack and Jared podcast show, whatever you want to call it. I think this is episode 9. Thank you for coming back. We got a first couple comments, so I'm glad that we mentioned something about comments. Please, again, comment, subscribe when you see us. If you like what you're seeing, just helps us out. Today, something I think a lot of people, if you're familiar with like online and internet influencers and or Facebook stuff, Nas Daily is something that I was thinking about the other day. Something I like a lot of his. He used to make these like 1 minute daily shows or 1 minute videos about different things, super interesting all over the world. But something related to that, but that always fascinated me, is he had a T-shirt, and his T-shirt said 30%, I think, and it was like 30% like full of a full bar, and it basically was because he was 30 years old, and then when he turned 31, he to get a shirt that like turned 31, and basically what that meant is like he sees himself as being about 100 years old. His life is going to be about 100 years old, so he's that much percent done with his life. And I feel like that was to me it resonated a lot, that like I like math and just like graphics, and it makes more sense where I consider myself kind of probably the same. So I'm about like 1/3 done with life. And when you think about it like that, if I not wasted, but if I spent a year just learning, or I spent a year even just partying and not really accomplishing goals, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much. And it allowed me to see the big picture more, and see my life in a long journey, I guess.
Yeah, and on that note, Steve Jobs, I think it was his Stanford graduation speech. He talked about fear and uncomfortableness and embarrassment and things like that tend to stand in the way of sometimes people taking action. And he followed that up with saying, when you remember that you're going to die, those fears kind of wash away, because they're just not, they're just trivial in the grand scheme of things. So you have a limited amount of time on this earth, and so therefore you're going to allow fears of embarrassment and things like that. And it's obviously easier said than done. And then the other thing I want to add, on a very similar vein, in terms of like the Nas Daily 30% done, is I actually found it's like a chart thing with like boxes for each week of your life, and it says like your life in weeks. And I actually kind of remade it with like quotes about time or around it, and I'm actually sending it to like UPS, FedEx, or one of the places that I'll do printing to get printed for me. Then I'm going to start checking off like all the weeks in my life done, because same idea. It's the representation that like you have a finite amount of time, and it's easy to like not keep that in mind. But for me, I know some people are going to think like checking off the weeks of your life is morbid, but for me, it's incredibly motivating to see that, okay, that's a week that's gone. I'm never going to get that week back. What did I accomplish? Where am I in life? Am I that much closer to my goals? And I'm super fortunate. Like I have I have 2 grandparents that are still living, and they're in their 90s. But even then, that means that like I'm a third of the way there. I just turned 30, which like is not a negligible amount. That's a third. So just like always having that like in my memory bank of every day, every week, every weekend. Not that like I need to work my, life away, but like, am I getting closer to my goals? Am I living the life I want to live? Which is, I think, what we want to really get into, which is like, how do you know what you really like want in life and like your purpose for, right?
Yeah, so that's a good segue, and you just reminded me of something that like is also pretty morbid, but whenever I need to get motivated and I need to do something, I kind of think of it, and it gets you going each time. I feel like I might even like get emotional thinking about it, but it's like imagine your funeral and the people who are talking are, yeah, I am a little emotional. Are you satisfied? And I don't know, that's like, are you happy with what they said? and that kind of gets you going, like, no, I got to do more or continue doing. Yeah.
So that's powerful. So I went to an overnight camp growing up, Pine Forest Camp, and unfortunately, um, Lee Black, who is the son of the owner, Mickey Black and Barbara Black, passed away a week or two ago.
Mm,
And
okay.
I was never really that close with him. He was maybe 5, 8 years older than me or something like that, maybe more than that. But there was a not like a service, but like a memorial thing where a lot of people from camp was there. And there's like over 200 people on this Zoom call, and hearing people talk about his life and the way he impacted people. I sat there in reflection afterwards and I thought to myself, like, this stuff's kind of, or it's super uncomfortable to be in a place of mourning. Um, like, you want to be respectful, and like you don't necessarily know what to say or say anything at all, and especially when there's loved ones there. But I left it after reflecting, and I thought, like, oh my God, like, if there's anyone that I've ever encountered in life, and God forbid, like something happens to them, like, I need to do this, because it just reminds you not only how finite life is, but like of the impact that you can have on people's lives with like the smallest things, like literally just the way that you like greet each other and the way you make people feel. It doesn't need to be this monumental, like you wrote a big check or you saved their life from a burning fire, things like that. Like, the stories that people told were things that you wouldn't even recognize were having such a profound impact on others, without this unfortunate event of having like a memorial service.
Well,
And so, yeah, it's super powerful.
I think that just goes to show too that this guy is obviously a great guy, that he probably didn't boast so much about everything that he did, which I feel like is always an awesome thing to like hear about things that like someone unfortunately passed did that they didn't tell anyone they did. You find out like, oh, he gave $1,000 to this person when they needed blah blah blah. A lot of people will tell everyone when they do that, like, oh, I'm such a nice person, but a lot of times you hear stories of just like secrets that they had. I don't know. I think that's always just pretty cool. But
Yeah.
into like the 30% of life, and thinking about having however much time about you have, like how do you plan for something like that, in business or in career or whatever? I feel like I'm not probably a traditional person, and don't want to be, where I don't want like a career that I stay at the same place for a long time. I feel like that's actually more trending, anyway, of just younger generation doesn't stay at the same job for more than like 5 years anymore, let alone when our parents had jobs, they probably stayed 10, 20, 30 years. So I think that makes it a little bit harder. Also, with like the economy changes so fast now, I feel like something that's gonna get harder and harder is like you're not gonna have to you're gonna have different jobs, different companies, quicker and quicker, but you're gonna have different skills. You're gonna have to adapt every like 5 years and learn something else. Whatever you know now might not be relevant in 5 years, and you're continually changing. So like, how do you plan for something when you don't know what's gonna happen, because it's gonna probably change?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that you maybe indirectly pointed out is, in order to do any of this, you need to have a high level of conscientiousness. So, like, understanding and knowing yourself, which kind of sounds easy. It's like, okay, I'm Jack, you're Jeremy. I went to law school, practiced law, then went to a startup. Like, this is who I am. But that's not who I am. That's just what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Conscientiousness like refers to like really, like, what are my skill sets, what does interest me, what bores me, like what do I like spending time on, am I energized when I like meet with like Jeremy, like when we have conversations, or am I better like behind closed doors when like I can put my head down and just like do work. And that's something that I definitely struggled with for a long time, trying to separate who I really am from who I thought I needed to be. But the more I've been able to kind of unwrap the layers of myself to like know, like, okay, like, I'm a hard worker, but I am not the hardest working person. Like there are people that will put in 80, 100, like Elon Musk apparently puts in like 100-hour weeks endlessly and like probably is going to do that like the rest of his life.
Yeah.
I put in 100-hour weeks, but I can't do that regularly. It will burn me out. And so like, even if it's like a sliding scale, like going through a bunch of things, like I've started figuring out like, yeah, I can work hard. I can do complicated things, but like, I'd rather not do this or I'd rather do that. And I think that's one of the first steps for me that's helped me figure out what goals and where I want to go in life, is recognizing that like who I am and like what states and what traits I have to help, that will enable or disable, I guess, me from getting to those milestones.
Right. And then I guess something that I feel like a decision I'm kind of leaning towards that's not necessarily what I want to do, but it's like how I want to live, is like I'd rather work hard or a lot of hours, or like I don't like to think I do too many things I don't enjoy. I enjoy a lot of the work that I do. But there's some things I definitely wouldn't do if I had a lot more money. I would rather stop doing those things at an earlier age and live a more low maintenance lifestyle than do those till a later age and just have higher end needs. So like I would rather retire at 40, let's say, and live on $50,000 a year than retire at 60 and live on $80,000 a year.
So what are a couple of the things that you are like crossing off your list that's going to allow you to, live that life that you want to live?
Crossing just about everything off the list. My goal, I used to want to literally be the richest person in the world. Like when I was 3 years old, I literally was telling people that. And like Monopoly was my favorite game because I just wanted to own everything. And now my mindset's more like you can never get everything, but you can get close to not needing anything. If that makes sense. So you can never get to everything. And like when you think of it like mathematical, like infinity is infinity. So if you have like $1 billion out of infinity, still a pretty small fraction. If you have $1, but you only need $1.01, that's a huge percent of like you have a lot. It's a high fraction. I don't know. I kind of like make things like mathematical a lot, but so basically, yeah, if I can get to the point where I don't need any money, that would be just amazing. So like I want to get self-sustainable. A lot of my investments right now, I think, are like getting to a place where I'm off the grid a little bit and self-sustainable. So like supplying my own food, my own energy, my own water. Kind of checking everything off the list.
It's so crazy that you just said that. So I read the Daily Stoic, and yes, for anyone that's not familiar with it, Stoicism is basically the practice of recognizing that everything outside your mind and how you react to things is truly out of your control. Like even your body is out of your control. Like something could happen to you tomorrow, whether, God forbid, you get hit by something or you have an illness or an ailment that you can prevent. Like even your body's like out of your control. And so obviously the way people talk to you and things like that, like you can really only control your reaction to them. And one of the things that the Daily Stoic talked about, or one of the passages mentioned, which is a quote that was so profound that I actually wrote it down, is I guess the Stoic called Diogenes, Diogenes. His quote is, "It is the privilege of the gods to want nothing, and of godlike men to want little." And kind of what you were talking about, like
I'm a godlike man.
No, like, but separating what you want, or wanting less, it does make life more peaceful, because we do live in a, say whatever you want to say about what's going on in the world, but if you live in the US, you live in a time of abundance right now,
Right.
from food to clothes to gadgets to whatever you want. And you can get a pre-approved for like credit cards pretty easily and just start taking out debt to like get more things that you want. And that's the more things you want, the less control that you have. But if you want very little, then you're truly in control because you can see people buying nicer cars and watches and computers and things like that. And you can be at peace because you know that that's not something for you. That's for them. And that is really powerful.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I agree. I like to think that if I can like sleep comfortably at night and eat during the day, and I'm in like a nice environment, like that's really all I kind of need. I can be happy doing that. So setting myself up for that is kind of like the goal. The thing is though, like you do still, or for me now, maybe I'll lose it, but like I still do get worried. Um, uh, I don't even want to speak that into existence too much, but like I do get I guess thinking sometimes like, will I have enough money? What if this happens, or what if that happens, or what if I change my mind? And that's kind of I think why I still like am working for even like a fairly big nest egg. So that when I make that transition, if I ever like change my mind or want to get back into it, I'll still like be able to adapt. So something I was gonna mention, I guess, when we're also like thinking about like what do you think of for the rest of your life with like careers or whatever. I also think my last like I'm not too familiar with the hero's journey, but I believe like my last decade, my 20s, I kind of thought was going to like progress for a long, long time. I was going to do real estate more and more. I was going to like expand real estate in whatever ways. I was going to teach in some capacity and whatever. And then those things kind of I lost interest in a little, or I like the situation's changed. My real estate I'm not too involved in anymore. So I feel like after talking with someone and like about it, I think that was kind of one hero's journey, and it's a circle, and you kind of like have different circles that happen. So like after that circle, you spend some time kind of just like living, making sure all your needs are met, but like you don't have to like completely jump into the next journey yet. You wait for it, and I think I'm kind of like I had that, and now my next hero's journey is kind of at the beginning. But I feel like it's definitely possible that that journey is another decade. Maybe it's 5 years, or maybe it's 15 years this time, whatever. But it could change, and then like something else might arise for the next hero's journey. And
Yeah.
I guess a hero's journey is basically the call to adventure, the supernatural aid, the challenges and temptations, then you get to the death, the revelation, you transform, and then you do it all over again. And if I was more familiar with it, I'd like explain it more, but I'm not, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the questions that we all have to face is how confident are we that we are on the right path? That like the goals that we are, first off, like, are you actually working towards something? And that is worth analyzing. Are you on a treadmill just doing the same thing? Just one of the reasons I got out of law. Like no offense to, I have friends that are still lawyers at great firms, and I know a bunch of people that are lawyers. But I just like seeing what these senior level associates and these partners, like the way that their kind of lives were and the stress levels that they had, and like they just didn't seem like that happy and things like that. Like I didn't want to be on that treadmill where eventually I would get to where they were and I would still just be running in place, like not happy, not reaching like a sense of fulfillment and stuff. Um, but once I got off the treadmill, then there's a whole other bunch of questions where it's just like now I'm on a different path, but like am I confident that this is the best path? Like, is the grass greener over here? Like, the money was good over there. Like, is the freedom better over here than the money that was over there? Like, that's so hard to figure out. And I think it's just like, for me, it's just been important to remember at times that, like, I have a plan and I got to like sit back and like, or not sit back, but like I have to work and like absorb that plan rather than second guessing myself. Like, you got to give things some months and potentially years to see how things plan out, because, nothing good or that worthwhile really comes in quick spurts. So it's just so natural. I'm sure everyone's felt the second guessing of, am I on the right path?
I definitely agree. Um, did you have anything you learned this week that you wanted to share?
Oh, why don't you go first? There was a couple things. I just want to like look at my notes.
All right, I got my first NFT this week.
Hey,
So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll shout out my friend Sean Hebert. He's got a podcast actually, the Crypto Couch. If you want to check it out about crypto, but he walks me through it all. Which I'm like, I have the technical skills obviously to do it and figure it out, but it was nice to just like have someone walk you through it. And like just like dumb questions you have, you could just ask him and have like good input instead of trying to read and cipher through it all. So yeah, I got that. And another, I guess, like thing I'm trying to, I guess, get into is digital real estate, which is like NFTs. But I've been just like exploring the different lands and all that, and that's been pretty fascinating and cool to see, and I think that's going to be pretty huge in the coming years.
yeah, I'm a big NFT guy. I own a couple of the NBA Top Shot cards, just because that was like the easiest thing for me to get into.
Yeah. Did you get
yeah,
packs, or were you able to get the packs that were like on limited release, or you got? Like,
so I've gotten a couple packs, but they sell out and their lottery system keeps disfavoring me.
yeah.
So I have a few cards. I think I have like 6. I've sold a couple others and bought a couple for the first time that immediately lost value, but whatever.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's a long game, man.
Yeah. But I signed up for the pre-sale because they're having so many issues that they did a pre-sale. So I have one of those coming in, I don't know, a couple weeks.
Dope.
But I guess one of the things that it's not that I learned, but I just recognized was I took some time off from like journaling. It wasn't intentional. It just like wasn't just like came back from Florida, fought my way through like the routine for the first few days I was back, and then just kind of gave into like temptation of like not sticking with my routine, and like my mindset and temperament kind of like went with it. And the one thing I recognize is like coming, or not like, but coming from a place of appreciation and gratefulness is everything. Like when I start my morning and actually write down 3 things I'm grateful for, then that just creates a lens that I look through the world in a completely different light. And it really does, like, it gives me, like, I'm living at home with my mom. It gives me more patience with her because, like, I love my mom, but she is the stereotypical Jewish mom, like, yappy, yappy, yappy. Like, oh my God, she'll ask me a million questions.
Yeah.
I'm like looking around to see if she's going to walk in.
I thought I saw her before. I think she's around.
She's around. I got to be careful.
She heard that.
Yeah. And so like literally today, like I wrote 3 things that I'm grateful for, and like I'll kind of read it out. So I had a great conversation with a gentleman that I met through my startup. And so I talked to him yesterday. So I wrote down this morning that I was just grateful to have a like 45-minute conversation with him and learn more about himself and hit it off. And he's been super supportive, and he's introducing me to other people, which I actually wrote down. I'm super grateful that he's going to be introducing me to these other people and I can be exploring those opportunities. Additionally, I talked to my the co-founders of the startup that I recently left yesterday, just because we still talk semi regularly. So see if there's anything I can help out with. And I wrote down that I was really grateful to be able to talk to them again, and that we still have a good relationship with each other. And like they purposely took the time out to like ask me how I'm doing, like personally and whatnot. And like, of course, I did the same for them. So I'm really grateful to have people like that in my life, especially considering, I took a big step back from the startup, and these are people that are not holding any type of grudge or animosity towards me. That's really important. um and so yeah, I wrote down like a few things that I'm grateful for that I just like read out real quick. And that's just the thing that this week really came crystal clear, that coming from a place of appreciation and gratefulness just changes everything.
Yeah, no, I agree. I went through a tough time like a couple years ago, and one of the biggest changes, there's actually like a change in your brain if you practice gratitude every day for I think like 25 days. Your brain literally changes. I don't know like how or whatever, but practicing gratitude every morning is like definitely one of the things that kind of changed my whole like perception of things. And I still like, if you follow me on Instagram, I take a picture and write grateful every morning. That's like my first post of the day. I used to list 3 things I was grateful for on it. Also, I stopped doing that. Maybe I should do that again. But yeah, waking up with gratefulness is definitely the best thing you can do.
Yeah,
Gratitude,
and
attitude.
yeah, and just for those at home that are listening, and the 12 of you or whatever it is,
Hey,
something that I think was Sam Harris, actually. It was like a modern day philosopher who I really like most of the time. But I something that he said that I think is a really helpful starting point for anyone who's interested in getting into this practice is like, even when things are bad, just imagine they're worse. And then from there, it's easy to take a step back and recognize that things really aren't that bad. And there is a lot to be appreciative of and grateful for. And the example that he gave that was really powerful was, he was talking about, he's got a family. He's like I guess a middle-aged guy with a wife and a couple kids, and they have a home somewhere. And they, middle of the night, home sprung a leak, big leak, like flooding like everything. And so it's like 4 a.m, and he's got to get up and take care of this and things like that. Like he's tired, middle of the night, his house is falling apart. These are things that should upset people. And I think he said his wife actually said this to him. So as he's sitting there like upset and whatnot, his wife's like, well, at least it's not sewage. At least it's just water.
yeah,
And right then and there, he's like, wow, I am so grateful that this is just water and not sewage. And I think that's like kind of an antidote that you can use for a lot of different things. Even if you don't think like things are that great in your life, like if you're interacting with anyone, like maybe you have a tough relationship with your parents, you guys don't hate each other, but you have a tough relationship, and you get on a call with them and it's a little aggravating. This is terrible to like think about, but like imagine if they weren't there.
yeah.
Like
Kind of.
aren't
I believe like in Judaism, you wake up and you say, I think it's the Moda Ani prayer, and I believe it's like expressing gratitude just for waking up. I mean, the fact that you woke up is awesome. If you can, some people can't talk, but if you can talk, that's awesome. If you can see, that's awesome. If you can hear, that's awesome. Like just having access to any and all or all of your senses is pretty miraculous.
Yeah, like if you are feeling terrible because you worked out, had a really strenuous workout, like you can be grateful that you're physically fit enough and capable to like work out. Even if you wake up and you don't feel great, because you like ate too much like the night before, like you can be grateful that you live in or that you have the means of like being able to afford ordering, even just like a Domino's pizza or like the pint of Ben and Jerry's or things like that. Like a lot of people can't do that. And so even in like times that may not seem like ideal, like you can turn it on its head. And it does sound super cliche, don't get me wrong, but when you start taking, or for me at least, when I started taking an active approach of like, when I was in Florida in the first couple of days down there, I wrote in my journal, I'm grateful to feel the sun on my skin. Like I am grateful to be like in a place where I can be outside and like enjoy like the warm weather. And like, you know, those can be like small, like, oh, whatever, like, you know, it's sunny in Philly in the summer and whatever. But it sounds cliche, but it really does. For me, it helps me stay more positive and patient and like a better person, I think.
Definitely. And then I just took a picture of you because tomorrow I'm going to say I'm grateful for you, Jack. Grateful for our 12 viewers and grateful for us doing this every week. It's been a pretty awesome experience. So thank you. I'll see you soon. I'll see you guys or whoever's listening whenever you listen. We'll see you the following Tuesday. Hopefully you'll listen right away. Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, and if you guys have stayed here this whole time, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button if you've obviously liked and enjoyed this, and then leave us a comment about what you guys want to talk about. We are going to keep talking every week. So you know, more ideas, the more we have to work with, you know, the better. So thanks for staying tuned, guys.